Jigyasa, an extremely relevant, and if I may venture to say, extremely urgent theme or topic to address. It couldn't have come at a better time, and I say this for two reasons. Number one, I would like you to visualize, imagine with me, and we'll go on a time scale journey. I'll take you into future, 6 to 8 years from now. Let's say 2030, 2032. Imagine we are doing a TEDx, the same place, and I'm standing, as you know me as whatever my name, carbon-based person standing here, and it's quite probable, it's quite plausible that another entity is standing right in front of me, which is a perfect fusion of silicon and carbon with enormous capability, inordinate capacity to process information in fraction of a second. It will answer all your questions, and it will be very willing to question you back. This phase can easily be termed as technological inundation. We are today living in what is very commonly understood as narrow-based artificial intelligence, and we use it on daily basis. 6 years from now, probability, this will become, in its own evolutionary curve, narrow intelligence will become artificial general intelligence. And what they say is, this intelligence will for sure overtake, bypass human intelligence as we know it in a very limited sense. The central question, if this scenario worries you, would be, are we going to be rendered incapable of thinking in just next 6 years? So this is the first reason why I say Jigyasa is an extremely relevant and urgent theme to address. The second thing, and being an educator, I can say this with all the humility at my disposal, one single purpose of any education effort anywhere across the world is to awaken in the learner love for learning. Stuffing the mind with information doesn't solve any purpose as much as the love for learning. This love for learning goes with the child when the child becomes an adult, and so on and so forth, continues the journey. Jigyasa has to be the leitmotif of every education exercise, curricula, planning, meeting, and so on and so forth. With this context and background, let us very quickly decipher the word Jigyasa. It's a Hindi word, if you say Jigyasa, largely borrowed from Sanskrit when you call it Jignasa. Etymologically speaking, Jigyasa is a desiderative verb from the root word nya, which constitutes jnana. Jnana means knowledge, to know. So Jigyasa happens in a process. There is a sequence to it. It is triggered by a quest in the mental consciousness, if you will, which first falls as a thought. Thought as a question, but that's not the end of the story. The question seeks to manifest itself, to express itself, and it moves to the next stage, which is called questioning. Questioning is a condition in which a thought can be allowed to express. Words like inquiry, inquisitive or inquisitiveness, intrigue, intriguing, curiosity we have already used, are all a derivative form of Jigyasa. With this background, let me pick up curiosity, for curiosity and inquiry is the closest rendering of the Hindi/Sanskrit word Jigyasa. I would like you to imagine once again. Let's say you go to a park and you see a pram, and in the pram you find an infant who is 3 months, 4 months old. Imagine, visualize, maybe you have seen that. Our attention spans are so less these days, but that we forget to see the beautiful things around. But just come close to this infant. Stand in front of the infant. You would see in the eyes a representative symbol of jigyasa. The infant doesn't want to know who you are, what your name is, but the gaze is fixated on your form. What does it look like? Do like this and do like this. The child moves right, the child moves left. Again, least interested what this sound is, but most interested where it's coming from. So this child then grows up, infant grows up and become a child, and then the child goes to the school. And once the child goes to the school, becomes an adult, the same eyes that once was very curious, inquisitive, is filled with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of information. And then when the child becomes student becomes an adult, settled, earning money and all, concludes life. You look into the eyes and you know there is not a trace of jigyasa to be seen anymore, because it has become it possesses a lot of knowledge, right? So, and as the child grows from a child to a student, it invariably gets into, because it's put into, a question-answer paradigm, a dependence paradigm. The whole life as a student is spent on focusing on an answer to a question that has been asked by an expert or a textbook. They are not your questions, but your focus is on getting the answer to the question that has been asked. Imagine how it would be, rather than answering your questions, you are fixated on questioning the answers that you already have. I, in my journey, had a great friend called Jigyasa. Right through my very alternate radical schooling till now. And this friend of mine, which is Jigyasa, has facilitated my growth because it's present continuous. There's no conclusion. One still looks at life from within to without with as much gaze as an infant would. No conclusions. Just looking life unfolding in front of you. A question pops up, it takes you to another question, then to the third question. And I realized that this is the only thing that one can do as an educationist, as someone who runs a small little school, to do away with all the syllabi and all the content that there is, to keep this curiosity alive. And I'll give you 4 ways by which the fire of jigyasa can be kept alive. First, do away from telling mode. As an adult, we know a lot. A child comes to you, you think the child has come to you to ask a question. But you know what the truth is? You just need to be slightly more conscious. The child is not seeking an answer. The child, in the very intimate part of his being, wants to go away with a follow-up question, so that the child can play with that question, go a step deeper. But we, being as an adult, you've asked me a question, I got to know, so you answer. If you don't answer, the child will be able to continue to keep the flame of jigyasa alive. So that's the first. Second, varied experiences, variety of experiences in terms of the food that we eat. Please do not just continue to eat South Indian food. Eat north, west, east, and same applies for those who are living elsewhere. Variety of food will open your senses to something which you haven't seen. Variety of people, variety of geographical locations can trigger certain neurons in your brain. And this will keep your jigyasa alive. We usually fall into a pattern, square our experiences up, slowly, slowly diffusing jigyasa inside. Trust me, if you do this, jigyasa will be alive. Third, less textual life. I would love to say no textual life, but let us be a bit practical. The more you know, the less wise you become. So keep away from text. I know books is a text, mobile is a text, WhatsApp is a text, IG is a text. But more you move away from textual, see, we live the word, not the real. For you to be able to live real, you have to live within yourself. But we live in the text outside. Fourth, a very urgent call for all education institutes. We need to move away from teaching to facilitation. And there's a stark difference between teaching and facilitation. A facilitator is a helper and a guide. The facilitator knows that all that you need to know is already within you, so therefore nothing can be taught. It has to be brought out, and it's an art. Rather than filling the mind, you are also diffusing jigyasa. Instead of oil, you are putting water in the fire because you are telling. You want an encyclopedic, algorithmized brain. So the brain goes, or the mind goes into sleep. It becomes indolent. It retires and gets into an automatic mode. And thirdly, within this fourth point, sometimes your jigyasa can be very abstract. You may want to study the cosmos. Great. But usually we should start from what is near to the child. Maybe what am I? Who am I? What a tremendous jigyasa it would be. Trust me, there is nothing more fascinating than knowing oneself. The more deeper you go, the more world is revealed to you. So if we can maybe exercise these 4 ways, we can possibly keep jigyasa alive. It's the best friend that I always had and I continue to have. Doesn't complain much. We have a great camaraderie between each other. And it's the driver of my little growth, and I continue to grow with it. Jigyasa is not seeking to help you in some way. It is seeking its own completion for higher truth and for a higher completion in that truth. Out of that truth, jigyasa would come again. Take your journey. Take you to your next level of evolution and be more creative. So, answering your questions or questioning your answers, think.